Hi, my name is Penny, and welcome to Reality Check. If occasionally you see me getting a little foggy or, having difficulty trying to think of what I'm trying to say, I do have fibromyalgia. It does affect the way things flow when it comes out of me, so please bear with me. Thank you. Hi, I'm sorry I haven't videoed anything in a while. I've had a lot of things going on in my life that needed tended to. But when this incident happened not so long ago with Renee Nicole Good, I really wanted to go in deeper. I know that most of us had gotten into the internet, usually with their own biases, and I'm going to admit I have my own biases as well, looking at every angle that they can of the shooting, of where the car was located, trying to figure out exactly what happened and was ICE justified and who broke the law and all this. If you're anything like me, you've gone even deeper than that, wanting to know exactly what the laws are. The one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of assumptions on what the laws are. What are they? As I gone deeper into research, I will admit that I ran across a few things that I wasn't too happy about, but it is what it is. I wanted to know not just who broke the laws and what the laws are, but how we, as Americans, apparently now, not just immigrants, can make it through safely if we encounter ICE. And this is what this video is about. Answering the questions about what the laws are, what really happened, was ICE justified, and we're about to go into a new adventure here. As doing my research, one of the questions that I asked was, who broke the law? And here's what I discovered. Unfortunately, because many of us do not know what the laws are, and we have an assumption of what we can and cannot do legally, puts us in a really bad spot. I do not believe that Renee Good thought she was breaking the law. Renee Good, in my opinion, was there trying to prevent injustice from happening. However, looking up the laws, for the most part, it is true that ICE does not have any rights over the American people. ICE cannot stop you for a traffic violation. ICE cannot arrest you for the most part. However, if you are obstructing justice or keeping them in any way from fulfilling their duties, which is considered obstructing justice, even if justice seems unjust, you are breaking the law. It is unfortunate, but because Renee Nicole Good was blocking ICE, that is considered obstruction, in which, unfortunately, she was indeed breaking the law. And it is because she was breaking the law, the federal law, they did have a right to order her out of her car and arrest her. Otherwise, had she not been doing that, they had no rights at all over her. Okay, so basically, unfortunately, Renee was breaking the law because she was obstructing justice, which gave them the right to order her out of the car. And because she did not follow those orders, that was also resisting. And then when she started to flee, that was also breaking the law. However, when it comes to killing her, if you want to call it murder, I call it murder. When we're talking about the civil law, there is no statute of limitation. But basically, as far as the law is concerned, people keep saying that Renee was trying to run him over and therefore he was justified in shooting her. So basically, what I have here in my notes, because I do have notes, is that the federal police bar shooting of a moving vehicle unless the driver poses an immediate danger or threat of deadly force beyond the car itself, like if they had a gun or something like that. Okay, but they don't like it when somebody does that because it poses, shooting at a moving vehicle poses dangers to people around them because of bullets flying, and poses a threat to people around them because of a car that's unattended can hit or harm someone else. Now, here's the thing. Says the department policy says deadly force is allowed only when there is no reasonable alternative, such as jumping out of the way of a moving vehicle. So therefore, because there was a alternative, such as he could have jumped out of the way of the moving vehicle, there was no reason for him to shoot her. Now, you can go on about what kind of a bad experience he had before. That doesn't matter. We're going on about what actually happened. And if he had such a bad experience that he has PTSD or PSTD, if he had that bad of an experience, then perhaps he shouldn't be doing this. You're not supposed to be jumping in front of moving vehicles. And if a vehicle comes towards you and you can jump out of the way, in which this officer clearly was able to jump out of the way of a moving vehicle, he had no right to shoot her. Period. End of sentence. They already had her license plate number. If he had just allowed her to flee, they could have looked her up and brought her and her wife to court. But he didn't do that. So, yes, Renee Good did break the law. Maybe she didn't know she was breaking the law because, unfortunately, many don't know what the law is concerning ICE, and I was one of them until I looked up information. But she broke the law, in which, unfortunately, gave them the right to order her out of the car, and when she didn't, that was resisting arrest, and then she fled. But there was no justification in the ICE officer shooting her or shooting at the car, because he cannot claim self-defense because he was able to get out of the way of the car. And they don't like you shooting at cars because it poses a danger to the people around them with the flying bullets, and because the car being out of control also poses danger to people around them. Those are the facts, like them or not. Now, I am not a religious person, but I have seen on Facebook a religious person say that a Christian would not have disobeyed the law. And where I believe that in this particular case, or in many cases, it's to our benefit to follow it, even if we think it's unjust. If you knew anything about the Bible in the days of Christ, he did disobey the law. When he went and healed the leopards, that was actually against the law. There are a lot of things that I could tell you where Jesus Christ disobeyed the law, but he did it because he knew the law was on the wrong. And he paid a price for that too. So for a Christian to say that, Christians do not disobey the law, the very one that you followed did. But not because he was a bad guy, because he was healing the leopards, because there were many, I can't think of them all right now, but if you actually read the Bible, he did. And he paid a price for it. So, going back to this. Now, let's go on from that, and let's get into the laws, and let's get into how to keep us safe. Okay. As I was looking up the laws concerning ICE and American citizens, and I've already told you a few of them, no, they cannot just shoot at a moving vehicle like that. For the most part, ICE has no jurisdiction over American citizens if you are obeying the law. Unfortunately, many of us do not know what the law is, and so therefore, if we disobey the law, unfortunately, we have given up certain rights. If we are blocking their path or in any way keeping them from arresting immigrants, whether or not we feel it's justified in what they are doing. And yes, ICE is breaking a lot of laws. Don't get me wrong. They are doing a lot of this illegally. They are arresting not just illegal immigrants, but they are arresting legal immigrants, and they are arresting American citizens that may have brown skin and look like immigrants, and the way they're going about it is highly illegal. Don't get me wrong, but that's for the courts to work out. Unfortunately, once we have done something to obstruct what they are doing, we broke the law. And once we broke the law, they have a right to arrest us for interfering with their duties. Here's the thing. They do not have a right to go into your house and search your home without a warrant. If an illegal immigrant or an immigrant or anybody comes running into your house for safety and hides, if you do not turn over that person when they're knocking at your door, unfortunately, you broke the law. It's called harboring. But you do not have to let them in. You have a right to say, no, you cannot come into my home. But you have to turn them over, or you are breaking a law. Now, if you want to take that risk, that's completely up to you. Later, you're going to be dealing with the federal courts and stuff like that. And it is sad. Really sad. So if you're harboring, you're also obstructing justice, and you can have those charges brought against you. But like it says, at the same time, you do not have to let them in without a warrant. You can tell them, please, you need to go get a warrant. Now, ICE has done some tricky things from the things that I've been reading. If they hand you a warrant, make sure the warrant is signed by a judge, because they have this paperwork from ICE that claims that it's a warrant, and therefore you have to obey that warrant. But if it's signed by ICE and not signed by a judge, you do not have to follow that warrant. It must be signed by a judge. Okay? As far as in your car is concerned, you can refuse them to search in your car, unless they have a warrant, of course. The only way other than that would be is if they see a lethal weapon from where they're located. If they're standing there looking at you and they can see a gun right there, then that changes everything, because now you're talking about a lethal weapon. ICE cannot pull you over for a traffic violation. Only, the regular police can pull you over for a traffic violation. The regular police, because they're pulling you over for a traffic violation, is suspicion of a crime, or they wouldn't have pulled you over for a traffic violation. So therefore, the regular police can order you out of the car. ICE cannot pull you over for a traffic violation. They're not traffic cops. They cannot do that. ICE cannot order you out of the car unless there is a legitimate reason for suspicion of breaking their laws, the federal laws. In other words, if there is a legitimate reason they believe that you have an illegal immigrant in your car, and they have a legitimate, or they believe that you are an illegal immigrant, if they have a legitimate reason for that, or if you broke the law by obstructing justice. If you used your car to barricade them from doing their job, in any way, if you broke the law by obstructing justice, then they can order you out of your car. If you are an American citizen and you have been able to prove that you are an American citizen, they cannot, and you have not broken any laws, they cannot legally order you out of the car. Okay? Once you have proven that you're an American citizen, they can't bother you. They need to leave you alone unless you are obstructing justice or they have reason to believe that you are breaking their laws. But if they order you out of the car without a warrant, they cannot search your car. And the only way they can is if you give them permission in any way. If ICE knocks at your door for any reason, like I said, without a warrant, they cannot search your house. But if you happen to do anything that gives them the impression that they got the impression that they can come into your home, like, hey, come on in, or whatever, you wave them in, or whatever, then they can search your home. Here's the thing. ICE has been known to do tricky things. So from the moment that you encounter ICE, please do pull out your camera and start videoing. This protects you later on down the road, especially if you have not broken the law. Okay? And, it also, it protects you later down the road and can protect your loved ones if an incident should happen. It's unfortunate because Renee probably didn't know that she was breaking the law. There is evidence in the videos that she broke the law by obstructing justice. If she knew what the law was, she may have taken a different route. And if there's all evidence that she did not break the law at all, this would be so much easier. But I guess you'd still have your naysayers. If you choose to go to a protest, good for you. I think we need to make a stand because there's a lot of stuff going on that should not be happening. So good for you. But do so knowing what the laws are. Be sure to look up your local and federal laws before you go to the protest in order to make sure that you are obeying laws. Now, one of the laws I do know when I was looking up the laws is if you happen to go to a protest, you cannot block the entrance of a federal building. They need to be going in there whether or not you like it. So if you see some of the protesters blocking the entrance of a federal building, the best thing for you to do at this point is go to an area where the entrance is not blocked. You cannot be throwing snowballs at the federal agents, no matter how angry you are, because it can be considered an act of violence. You can't throw rocks or snowballs or anything like that. You can't touch them. Let's make the only ones who are legally doing things illegally, who are on the wrong of the law, ICE. So you cannot block the entrance of a federal building. You cannot be throwing things at an ICE officer. It is considered an act of violence. Be careful about any idea of getting into their faces. You could be considered somebody who is harassing them. No matter how angry you get, no matter how much you want to tell them off, no matter how much you want to tell them that they are monsters, don't get in their faces. Don't harass them. Do hold up your protest signs. Do your chants. You can chant. You can hold up your protest signs. If the news media comes along, you can also tell them your grievances. But do not throw things at them. Do not get in their faces. Do not harass them, because they're not listening anyway. They are just looking for an opportunity to fight you. They're looking for an opportunity to be tough, to show you what they, I mean, the attitude that they've been having, like, yeah, we've already executed one of yours, we could do it again. It shows that they are looking for that opportunity. Do not give it to them. Okay? Now, here's the thing. One of the rights that you have is the right to remain silent, your Miranda rights. Okay? Use it. Definitely use it. You don't have to answer their questions at all. No matter how much they try to push you to answer the questions, force you to, you don't have to. You can simply say, I am maintaining my right to remain silent, my Miranda rights. I will not be answering your questions. I'm not going to answer a question without my lawyer present. If they do order you out of the car, if you obstructed to justice, get out of the car, don't cause any problem. You can ask them, am I under an arrest? If they say yes, you can ask them, what are the charges? Legally, they have to tell you. You can ask them their badge number. Legally, they have to tell you. Legally, they have to give you the information that they are an ICE agent and their badge number, some way of proving it. I know you see the videos where I'm not going to give it to you, or whatever little attitude. Let them be on the wrong. Because especially if they are in a vehicle that's obviously does not look like an obvious ICE vehicle, you don't know that they're just some other kind of cuckoo out there that's going to pretend to be ICE in order to give you a hard time or even kill you. You have a right to know who they work for, what their badge number is. You have a right to ask for that information and receive it for your protection, and make sure you have your camera going when this happens. And if they tell you that you are not being arrested, you have a right to ask, are you free to leave? Am I free to leave? If they say no, then let them do whatever crazy crap they gotta do, but video it. For God's sake, video it. Do not put that camera down. They could tell you to put that camera down, but you have a right to video this. And when they're done doing whatever they think that they legally have a right to do, ask again, am I free to leave? And once they say that you're free to leave, you can go. Okay? You have those rights. Here's the thing, is even if you are an immigrant, even if you are an illegal immigrant, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to answer any questions. And you can exercise that right, and you could tell them, I am not going to answer your question. I am exercising my right to remain silent. They could ask you, they can get aggressive, they can do whatever, but you have that right to remain silent. And I am going to strongly suggest that no matter how much on the innocent you are, exercise that right, because they can use the strangest things against you. Now, I am under confusion as far as if you are an immigrant and you have the paperwork to prove that you are here legally, or if you have the paperwork to prove that you are now an American citizen, if you should hand that paperwork over or not, because in my research there was conflicting reports. It is a good idea, though, from my understanding, to have that paperwork on you at all times. Not just on you, but to have copies of that paperwork on your phone and at home. You know, it'd be good to have as many copies of that paperwork as you possibly can. Okay? On your phone, in your cloud, at home, whatever. Because from my understanding, from my research, ICE tends to either destroy the paperwork or take it and not give it back to you. And they're supposed to give it back to you. But they either take it, not give it back to you, destroy it, or in some way use it, even if you are here legally, to get you deported. Okay? So rather not, giving the paperwork over to them, I mean, maybe, because you don't have to roll the window all the way down. You can just roll it part way down to talk to them, and for your safety, it's probably better. Maybe you could put the paperwork up against the window, but not hand it to them, or whatever. The only time you have to roll the window all the way down is if you are under suspicion and they ask you, or if you committed a crime and they ask you to roll the window all the way down. Once you have committed a crime like obstruction, you have given up many of the rights, even as an American citizen, that you have. Okay? The suspicion, what is it that, it's like, that they are suspecting you of, you have a right to know that. Okay, there are a few fuzzy things around that you're going to have to look up yourself if you're an immigrant or an illegal immigrant, because I I would look up, things that are specifically government things, but be careful when looking up things that you think is a government site. In doing my research, I had was getting into things that would say something something .gov or something something government, and then when I would get into it, then all kind of ads would pop up and stuff like that. So try to make sure that you are legitimately getting into a government site if you want to look up your rights concerning your citizenship. Okay, but basically, because an American citizen just recently got shot, this is about how to keep us safe in trying to protect you. Okay, so the basics on this, I want to tell you this is that just the basics, okay? Keep yourself safe. For as long as you have not done anything illegal, they do not have a right to pull you over or stop you. They cannot stop you for a traffic violation. If you are an American citizen, they cannot ask you to get out of the car. They cannot do anything if you're an American citizen, as long as you have not broken any laws. If you're harboring them, you have relinquished certain rights. But even in that, you still have the right to refuse a search of your car or your home unless they have a warrant. That right still remains without a warrant signed by a judge. Do not get violent in any way with them. Do not throw snowballs at them or sandwiches or rocks or whatever. Video, definitely do video from the moment you have an encounter with ICE. Turn on that video camera. Definitely do video. You have a right to that, and it could protect you later on down the road. Those are kind of the basics, okay? Keep in mind, I know you're angry, and I don't blame you. But when we are confronting ICE, and if we are doing things that give them a reason, at least in their own brain or justification, to harm us or arrest us or whatever, it makes it more difficult for us when dealing with a federal court. And basically, you can yell at them all you want. It's called harassment. Or they could take it as harassment. And what are you accomplishing? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're just getting your anger out, you could be making a mistake. It could cost you your life. And you could be making a mistake that's going to defeat your purpose. Okay? Protest, definitely protest, but don't break the law doing it. Okay? Just know your rights. Look up the laws. Keep yourself safe, for God's sakes, because we already know that they are looking for a reason to shoot you and get away with it. I believe I made all my points. I don't know. I got my notes. Yeah. Make sure the law is on your side. Blah, 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 blah. But no, ICE was not justified in what they did to Renee Nicole Good. There was no justification in that. Yes, she broke the law. No, they were not justified. Let's get our point out, but let's do it with the law on our side, and let's get out of it safely. Thank you. These are straight from my notes. Stay calm no matter what. Don't argue even if you know you're in the right. Don't answer questions. Tell them you're exercising your Miranda rights. If you're asked to get out of the car, do so if you broke the law, like obstruction. Otherwise, you don't have to. Don't open the car window all the way, only far enough to talk, even if they ask you to, unless you have committed a crime like obstruction. Then they have a right to ask you to open the window all the way.